Good people, we have the privilege of doing the peel. It's a very special time. Oh. Ha, it's nice. All right, honestly, I was not expecting to see such awesome cases from ASUS. Obviously, the ProArt series is really interesting, but I'm excited to see it grow. There are new things from the micro ATX space and also a special little nugget that we're gonna save for a little bit later in the video that I think is going to get a lot of people excited because of a particular AP201, if you get my drift. So first, let's start with this, what I thought might be, oh, that's cool. ASUS is finally collaborating with Noctua edition, but no, this is ASUS's own ProArt 602 wood edition retro brown. And I absolutely love the wood. And also, Eber, if you notice, this is not a black exterior. We have some black elements, of course, on the filter, but we have this like kind of a bronzy color that spans the entire chassis that complements the wood perfectly. I love this edition that not only spans some interesting wood elements, but we are finally seeing some cool colorways that complement the wood in the first place, you know? You can see here we have screws after screws holding each individual piece, and that is quite nice because in a hotter environment, if you are looking at some glue, that might not be a reliable source of adhesive over time. So the screws are definitely the way to go forward, and I'm glad that ASUS is taking the very popular trend within the case space and are improving it, especially on the production side. We have a beautiful grain that is visible. It's really soft to the touch because of how they've treated it with the sheen. And so that's going to be quite nice in the long term. And it's also apparently 30% stronger in terms of reliability and just shelf life of this wood. And I personally have the ProArt 602 as my editing machine, but it's in black. And I'm really happy to see ASUS come out with something that is on this scale because it is gorgeous. And surprisingly, the price point is not that much more expensive. $10 to $15 more for this entire wood edition versus the original black one, which is $269, and this is to be expected around $279 plus the tariffs, you know, but that's kind of up in the air, and I'm glad that the price isn't astronomically more expensive. Yo, Eber, the interior is also the same color as the exterior, that beautiful bronzish color. It's not black. We do have some black pieces, of course, and that's going to be a really fun element to color match to your other components, but I'm sure going with some Noctua edition hardware would be quite popular in this ProArt Retro Edition. Another ProArt enclosure that is available on the market right now, but we have a new colorway, is the ProArt P401 Beige. I have not seen a beige interior or exterior yet, but interestingly, these curved wood panels on the front are also wood. Similar treatment in terms of making sure there's no organic life in there, proper treatment over time, and if we remove the front panel, all the little wood elements are screwed in. You can see all the individual screws. So obviously this is gonna last way longer, although you probably will need to come in here and tighten things over time as the wood might perhaps deform. The fans also match the colorway. We have 160mm at the front and a 120 at the back. And interestingly, because this is such a unique colorway, like finding hardware that might match what you're trying to kind of display on the exterior is going to be quite difficult, which is why this entire mesh panel is not glass, because you are trying to almost use the enclosure as a little showpiece. And imagine if this was glass, it would have been very difficult. Oh, there's a button. So Eber, you tell me there's a button to unlock the side panel? Ooh, so actually this is really cool because my ProArt enclosure has the same functionality. I'm glad that that's actually percolating into smaller enclosures as well. And I was telling them, like, this type of mid-tower is not gigantic. So finding a suitable graphics card is going to be a priority, but most ProArt components in terms of GPUs are not gigantic. So it makes sense that this thing is not as big as the AP602, but I do appreciate the compact form factor. I wish that we had more of them, like Meshify 3 just came out that tries to target that size, and I'm glad that ASUS is trying the same. I do like the built-in cable management system at the back here, and this is plastic, which is slightly flexible, but easy to open, route your additional cables, etc., and close it back up. I do like that this is not Velcro, and of course, this has to match the colorway of the metal, and the entire case feels like it was designed for professional space that might house decent enough hardware. Love it. And I've just been told we have a special glass panel for the AP401. Of course, you can already tell it's got a very special coating on the exterior perimeter and on the tint itself that matches the whole Pantone oatmeal beige color. Let me put it on, let's see what it looks like. Wow, Ibor, what do you think?
Looks really nice.
Looks really nice. It kind of goes against what I was saying earlier of the reason why they included a mesh panel, because no hardware will match of the interior. But if you're going like all black components, this would totally be suitable to have still a tempered glass inside, you know? Then we have the AP202. It's a micro ATX enclosure, which doesn't look like a micro ATX case because of its volume, but they have done something really interesting. So basically this top portion is separated from our power supply shroud, and instead of taking in air from the side ventilation, for example, or side perforation, the entire bottom section is cut off, so we have uninterrupted access for our airflow to breathe at the bottom. So delivering cool air for the GPU right away. I'm guessing that is one of the compromises in terms of volume, because the case, I would say it's like, oh, wow, it's a regular mid-tower, but because of that separation that eats into our available volume. But still, I kind of like it, and it's got a really cool element with the curved tempered glass panel, of course, that is strong, and I'm guessing the yields are becoming really good because we're seeing more and more tempered glass that is curved on cases. One interesting element about this tempered glass though is that instead of just taking it out and trying to finesse, trying to put it in, it sits on a rail system. So if I unlock here, right here. So Ibor, look at this. You can see how much it can slide out, right? So it's got a little rail system, and I was telling them you can potentially just use this as a feature to slide the tempered glass out in case you need to air vent the interior a little bit more. Don't you remember the early days of PC building when like you didn't have enough money for excellent cooling hardware, and then at one point you just open the side panel for cooling? And the interior here is quite basic with micro ATX motherboard, 11120 fan intake at the bottom, 2 exhausts on the side, 1 in the rear. So from a unique point of view, I think the AP202 has its place. Of course, if volume is your priority, but I still like the curved tempered glass and this whole section at the bottom that also has RGB illumination to highlight its main feature for airflow. I like it. And here's that rail system I was talking about. I hope they would include a little marking on the actual glass at the top here to give you a safe spot as to how much you can extend it. But as right now, see, it's very easy to put back. Awesome. I love this mechanical design. Behind this dust filter, you can't fit a 360 up top, pretty standard. And for a micro ATX enclosure that has enough height above the motherboard, this is definitely a priority. And then we have this, the AP303, the wild card. Follows in the similar footsteps of the AP201, which was a micro ATX enclosure at only 33 liters. This is slightly bigger both in length, width, and height at 45 liters. So if you compare it to something like the Corsair 4000D, which is around 49 liters, that gives you a little perspective on what this can do. So it is a full ATX enclosure now. We have full 360 support at the top that can accommodate a 60 millimeter thick radiator, which is awesome because we have now proper offset towards the side of the enclosure, and of course we have additional height above the motherboard for those thick radiators, which is awesome. This bracket, of course, is removable, really easy to reinstall back into the chassis from the top, I believe, yeah, because the screws up here. And just a really easy mechanical design. I really like the perforation pattern that is, you know, slightly more square, so very much follows in the footsteps of the predecessor that was slightly smaller. The cables at the front from the I/O are properly spaced away from our cooling configuration that you might house at the top. So they're thinking about removing any compromises when it comes to cooling and cabling. The front panel, easily removable. Love this mechanical design. And here is where you'll be able to install our ATX power supply, just like on the 201 with 3 positions. The side panel removes easily, just push pins, and that's it. We are inside the enclosure. So first of all, obviously 11120 millimeter fan support at the bottom. There is a dust filter, which I'm not a huge fan of this type of dust filter, to be honest, because it's a little bit more restrictive. Do you think we'll have options for 11120s? So I think, Ibor, we should check. What do you say? I guess it aligns, yeah, it aligns exactly Oh, I realize why it's offset so much to the back. So you have to mount the fans all the way to the back. Yeah, and the holes are fine, just because we have power supply at the front here that are going to have all our cables facing down. So to avoid any of your fans munching on the cables, they've properly spaced out the fans. That's actually pretty clever, Eber. Thank you for letting me know about this. Now, cable management on the AP201 was a concern just because we have such limited amount of space for routing cables, and it seems like we have a little bit more space here, especially with our storage brackets, but still it's not going to be as comfortable, for example, as a full mid-tower. And this having some space constraints because of its 4 or 5 liter volume, I would say you'd have to do a little bit of cable management finessing to make sure everything is fit and the panel closes properly. And on the inside, so first of all, we have full ATX motherboard support now that is indented towards the rear panel, giving us extra clearance for any thick radiators and cooling at the top. We have dual GPU anti-sag brackets over here. One just like more of a traditional one that supports the GPU from the bottom. And this one is for NVIDIA GPUs, where you mount this bracket directly to the back of the graphics card, and it has a little variation on how you want to mount it, but that's going to be slightly stronger support and is going to really not allow the graphics card to sag or bend in any shape or form. And because the power supply is installed at the front, it does limit our GPU compatibility. So they are mentioning 360 millimeters for our specification on the GPU side. So pretty decent. It's not going to fit the largest graphics card that even ASUS makes, but especially on the ProArt side, anything would fit here without any issues.
Okay, so that was the AP303, but what are you going to use to cool the AP303 and those components? Well, ASUS is hoping that you use the new PP120 ProArt fan. Now, I know it sounds weird, PP120, but I think the reason why they named it that is the ProArt performance fan, I think. Not confirmed. But anyways, what is this fan all about? Well, it is supposed to go up against the best of the best on the market. So against the T30, Lianli P28, and a bunch of those other fans. So what is this? This is a 28 millimeter thick fan that runs at up to 3,000 RPM. And in all of the tests that I've seen so far, of course, those are ASUS's internal tests, it beats both of them by a pretty good amount right across the RPM spectrum. Again, those are ASUS's internal numbers. We're gonna have to test this thing ourselves. Now, what we do know right now is that it uses an advanced fluid dynamic bearing that is good for up to 200,000 hours worth of lifespan. As with all the fans in this category, well, this one uses liquid crystal polymer for the blades itself, not for the frame. And speaking of the frame, they actually have a very interesting mechanism to attach these things together. So they are daisy chained. All you have to do is flip a little switch on each side, and that's it. There's absolutely no cables because it uses this little pad that makes contact with some pogo pins. So you push it together, like that, boom, whoop, and boom, and they're together. So the other thing you need to know about this is, of course, what kind of price are you looking at? ASUS, they haven't sort of nailed exactly the cost yet, especially because of tariffs and everything else, but they are going to be very, very aggressive. Right now, target cost in the United States is $27 per fan, or a triple pack around the $75 to $80 mark. Now, that triple pack does come with a secondary controller, so you can basically set the fans independently of your motherboard and its PWM signal, which is great. Release is going to be in July, so expect a review around that time. Anyways, I'm Mike with Hardware Canucks here at ASUS. Have a great day.